Well, the White House is reportedly preparing an economic deal with Cuba as it ramps up pressure on the island nation. That's according to USA Today. And in an interview on Friday, President Trump told CNN that, quote, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon. At the Shield of the Americas summit this weekend, he warned great change is coming to Havana.
Cuba's at the end of the line. They're very much at the end of the line. They have no money. They have no oil. They have a bad philosophy. They have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time.
And I want to bring in Michael Bustamante. He is an associate professor of history at the University of Miami, and he joins us now to break this all down. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. You heard what the president just said. He's saying that Cuba could fall soon. Realistically, how close is the Cuban regime to collapse?
Well, there's no question that Cuba is in the midst of a very, very deep economic crisis. It's been there for a number of years, and it's only gotten worse since January. But what I hear and what I've been hearing over the past couple of days is just a tremendous amount of contradiction. We've gone from Cuba's about to fall with sort of intimations of perhaps military action even, or some kind of aggressive action to bring about the forceful fall of the Cuban government, to a report yesterday in USA Today suggesting that there's an economic deal on the table that would largely leave the Cuban government intact. So I think it's just really difficult to read the tea leaves here. And I think all of us are asking what, if anything, is the real end game that the White House has in mind.
And to give some perspective for our viewers, President Obama lifted some restrictions on Cuba during his presidency, which President Trump reversed in his first term. How does Trump's strategy now differ from Obama's?
It differs almost in every way, at least on the surface. The Obama administration sought to create an environment favorable for gradual reform inside of Cuba by taking a friendly posture, by allowing more Americans to visit, by encouraging engagement and contact. The Trump administration is using coercion. They've cut off Cuba's oil supplies, which are having dramatic impacts on the energy infrastructure. Cubans are living with 15, 16-hour blackouts a day. However, if the USA Today report yesterday is correct that there is an economic deal on the table, it does have some resemblance to what Obama hoped to achieve, which was a strategy that prioritizes economic engagement over immediate political change. And that's going to leave many of the president's Cuban-American supporters in South Florida, I think, asking big questions about what the plan is for Cuba's political future.
And is a democratic transition in Cuba possible?
It is very difficult for me to see that happening in the short term, even in a scenario in which the Cuban government were to somehow magically collapse tomorrow. The Cuban opposition, which of course exists, is not really in a position to immediately take power. And so I think that might be one of the things that's shaping the administration's approach here, that to the extent that they are open to some kind of a deal with the shell of the Cuban government that exists, I think that they are also arriving at the assessment that an immediate democratic transition is not so probable, much like the conclusion that they arrived at in the Venezuelan case.
All right, Michael Bustamante, we appreciate your perspective. Thank you.